Welcome to the Fierce as Fuck podcast. I'm your host, Amanda King, and I'm here to teach anybody who wants to fucking listen how to have the audacity to say fuck it to societal standards and live their most authentic life. This podcast is dedicated to bringing sexual conversations from behind closed doors onto the main fucking stage. Because sex, masturbation, squirting, guess what? It's all fucking normal. And by bringing these conversations to the forefront, we help people feel less alone in this world. We help them feel safe. We help them gain their power back, step into their confidence, and have the ability to express themselves authentically as fuck in this world. Because it takes fucking audacity to be your truest self. And we have boatloads of audacity up in this bitch. So let me ask you this. Are you ready for some epic shit? Hello, everybody. So this is a topic that we're going to discuss today that has, I feel like, become the main topic I discuss on my platform. And I have done another podcast episode about this called Women Come To. And I actually posted on here twice more recently because I think I did it over the summer and then I reposted it on here a few weeks ago. And I even wrote an entire article about women called Women Come To on Smex Ed as well. And if you haven't read the article, please go. It's so chock full of so much good fucking information that's just going to reinforce what this podcast episode is about today. So Smex Ed is always linked in the show notes as well. So go to smexed.com to read the article Women Come To. But no matter how much I talk about the topic of female ejaculation, it is literally the number one question I get asked the most is about either female ejaculation or female squirting. And so I wanted to kind of just create a new podcast episode, a fresh one, discussing the topic because obviously there are so many questions and so many women are confused but intrigued or they just feel a lot of things about this topic. And so we are going to discuss female ejaculation today. We are going to discuss orgasms today. We're basically going to discuss what I call the big three or the three C's, which is climax, cum, and cream. So climaxing is orgasms. That's what I refer to as when you have an orgasm. Cumming is what I discuss or what I like to call squirting because I don't like the terminology of squirting. It makes me feel like a fire hose, but I'll use it so that I can clarify because some people get confused. And then creaming is when a woman ejaculates. And all three things are different. And so in this podcast episode, I'm going to kind of discuss each of them and I don't know, try to give you a how-to, but in reality, it's hard for me to give a how-to. But let's just open up this discussion because this is just the topic of female ejaculation is not very well studied. And the studies, like the scientific studies that I have read, are always skewed and they're always done by men and they're always testing for urine because God fucking forbid it contain a little bit of urine. And they're not testing for the right things when they are testing female squirting, which they refer to as female ejaculation. So let's back up here because I'm getting ahead of myself because I love this fucking topic and I just want women to feel okay and normal about this shit. It really upsets me when I get messages from women who are like, how do I stop it? Or I'm embarrassed by it. Fuck that shit. Like, if anything, I hope this episode makes you feel normal and just to be able to scream from the rooftops. I'm a fucking squirter. I'm an ejaculator. I have 12 different types of orgasms. Hear me fucking roar. And I'm not ashamed of any of it because you have no reason to be ashamed of it. Men are not ever ashamed of ejaculation. And that's a whole other topic about the patriarchy, like really focusing on male pleasure rather than female pleasure. And education being so based on men and sperm rather than on women and orgasms, and it being anti-creation rather, or abstinence rather than focusing on actual sex as a pleasure. And so let's talk about female ejaculation. So female ejaculation is an umbrella term. And what I mean by that is you are going to hear female ejaculation in studies referred to as both squirting and ejaculation, right? So female squirting is what you hear the most of and is most commonly seen. And this is because mainstream porn has made it more visible to women, which is great because it's giving it a, I don't know, it's giving it a voice, I guess, but it's also terrible because it's giving it an unrealistic voice. And so it's like a double-edged sword of it. But female squirting is what we tend to speak about most when it comes to female ejaculation. Female squirting is when a woman is aroused either before or after an orgasm, because a woman can squirt before an orgasm. Basically, what happens is her bladder fills with liquid. And I know you're freaking the fuck out right now because I just said the word bladder and your brain is instantly going to pee, right? There is a small trace of urine in female squirting liquid, a small trace, but that's not all of it, right? There are PSAs in it. There is fructose in there. There are other components in the actual liquid itself, but it does come together in your bladder. And basically, when you release this liquid, it comes out your urethra, just like pee. But once again, it is not all urine. Yes, there are small traces of urine in there. And don't even let that freak you out. Because let me tell you this, semen also has small traces of urine in it. It's going to. Why? Because it's coming out the urethra as well from men. But whenever we talk about semen, we don't have people screaming, it's urine. It does. It has urine in it, right? It just happens to be that way because of the hole it's coming out of. And so men are not ashamed of ejaculating, even though there are small traces of urine in there. Women shouldn't be either. So squirting, the amount of liquid that comes out can vary depending on each person. Why? Well, one, circumstances, right? If a woman is feeling that release and wanting to squirt, but she's with a new partner and she's a little nervous about it, it may come out just a little rather than a full release. She may stop herself from fully releasing. It could be that during the situation, say it's oral sex versus penetrative sex versus clitoral stimulation versus A-spot stimulation, each stimulation area can cause a little bit different amount of liquid to come out. But once again, in mainstream porn, we look at squirting like a person who can shoot a fucking fire hose of water from one side of the room to the other. Not accurate. Can some women gush that much? Absolutely. But a lot of women, it starts out as a little dribble. And I actually, and this is my personal opinion, not scientific fact, let's preface that, I think that more women squirt than they think they do. So on average, and I'm going to tell you these statistics are fucking shit because every statistic is different on every study. But in general, between the studies that I've read on female squirting, between 10 to 50% of women have the ability to squirt. Meaning that there could be a population out there that can't squirt, right? Once again, studies in the female body are few and far between. There is controversy over even the G-spot, right? Does the G-spot actually exist? Yes or no? Do all women have it? Yes or no, right? The female body is like some fucking anomaly that scientists are like, huh, what? And no one's doing the proper research over it to educate us all on it. So statistics are always going to be skewed when it comes to the female body because no one knows what the fuck they're doing. Moral of story. But typically between 10 and 15%, 50, pardon me, percent of women can squirt. Now, I believe more women can squirt than that, but I believe that we may not recognize that it's actually happening because we think squirting looks like what we see in porn, when actuality, squirting can actually, the liquid that can come out can be a little bit. So during penetrative sex, if all of a sudden you're feeling really wet, like really wet, that could be you possibly releasing some squirting liquid. In my personal experience, When I have to squirt, this is what it feels like. Once again, my personal experience, every woman is different. So when I feel the need to squirt, it feels like a pressure. I compare it to having to pee, right? It feels like you have to pee, but you're not peeing, right? And it's completely different. It's a clear liquid that will come out. It does not smell like urine. It does not taste like urine. A lot of people who have tasted it will say it tastes sweet. That is the fructose within it. It is a clear liquid. So it's going to feel like you have to pee. You're going to feel that pressure. Once you feel that pressure, you don't want to ignore that pressure. You don't want to back away from that pressure. When I was younger and I would feel that, I would instantly stop what I was doing because in my brain, I would think, oh my God, I'm going to fucking piss myself. It's not pee, right? It is your body doing exactly what it wants to do, which is release this liquid. So it's going to kind of feel like a full bladder. And then it is about relaxing your body and in a way, convincing your brain to recognize that you are safe, it is normal, and it is not urine. Because a lot of women will get to that point where they really they're about to release and they'll stop altogether because they're afraid of it coming out. And so when you feel that release, it's about slowing your breathing down. Another mistake a lot of women make is they start with orgasms, we tend to hyperventilate a little, like no, when you're squirting, it's about slowing down. It's about taking big, deep inhales because the pressure or the feeling is going to be really intense. So it's about taking those deep breaths and allowing your body to relax through the intensity and ride it rather than pulling away from it. Now, a lot of women will say, it's too intense. How do I ride it? You have to trust your body and the fact that you are safe within it happening in order to ride that intensity, because intense pleasure is still really, really, really intense. And so you have to recognize in this moment that your body is supposed to feel this pleasure. It's supposed to be this good, and you're allowed to feel it, and you are safe in feeling it. Slow, deep breaths, and you should be able to release. The first time you're doing it, it's probably going to be just a little. The first time I squirted, and I've talked about this before, it was a little dribble during like 69 position. I didn't even know it happened. It just naturally happened. My boyfriend was like, what the, oh my God, do you realize what you just did? And that's when I started learning more about it. And so it will happen differently. It may just be a little bit at first, but the more comfortable you get with your body, the more safe you feel, the more liquid that could come out potentially in the future. If you have never squirted before, my biggest suggestion is to figure it out via masturbation, only because it's when you are the safest and it's when you can really feel through the sensation without the pressure of a partner saying anything. No partner should be pressuring you to squirt. It is not a fucking act or a performance. It is a pleasure-filled sensation that you have the right to feel, and no one should be putting that pressure on you to do it, to perform, to make them feel more adequate. And when they do that, it's going to give you performance anxiety, and you're not going to be able to do it anyway. So practice with yourself. Now, female ejaculation is something completely different, even though, once again, umbrella termed with female squirting. Female ejaculation, studies say, once again, studies are skewed, say less than 5% of women, less than 5% of women can do it. Also, I don't believe that this is true, but this is what studies say. Now, ejaculation fluid comes from the Skene glands, right? Or Skene's glands. One of them, Skene's glands. There we go. These are glands that are on each side of your vulva. So basically what happens is you become aroused, and typically post-orgasm, once again, everyone's different, but typically they say in studies post-orgasm or post-sexual stimulation, you will cream, right? This is another name for it. It's called creaming. It's called cumming. I refer to cumming as squirting, but typically cumming is referred to as ejaculation. So this is going to look completely different than squirting liquid. Squirting liquid is going to look like water. It's clear, right? Ejaculation fluid is going to be white, like a milky white substance is what they typically call it. It's a little thicker than liquid. So squirting will probably pour a little bit out of you, will feel like running water down you. Ejaculation fluid won't, right? So how do you tell if you can ejaculate? This is different for every single woman. I don't really have a how-to with ejaculation. Honestly, the only reason I found out that I could do it was because I record myself masturbating, which there's no shame in that. I do that to learn my body, and it was part of a self-love process that I was going through, and that I do go through. And I happened to catch it on camera when I did it, and I was like, holy fucking shit, I can do what the fuck? Started my whole Google process. And I talk about it a little bit more in the article, Women Come To on SmexEd. But it can typically happen, and it did happen the first time after I was basically like edging myself, where I would get really, really, really close to having an orgasm and then would slow down and then would start back up and then slow down. And I think I had like 2 orgasms. It actually rocked my body, and then it happened. And it typically does happen when it is more of an orgasmic release. Like it's like the orgasm just keeps pushing through, and I keep pushing through that orgasm, right? Because a lot of times too, women, once they have an orgasm, will stop with the intensity and the feeling rather than riding it out a little further to see what happens. But every woman is different when it comes to ejaculation. And once again, the best way to really see whether or not you can is, one, if you have a partner who's willing to explore your body with you, have them tell you. A lot of women find out that way because their partners are like, oh my God, you just creamed, or you just came. Or record yourself masturbating. Sometimes you won't catch it on camera because of the fact that your toy will be blocking it. So if you're done and you pull your toy away and there is a milky white substance on the toy, you creamed, right? It does look different than, squirting. Now, can some women do both? Absolutely. What is the percentage? I have no fucking idea because there's no studies conducted on it. But a lot of women have the ability possibly to do both, or one or the other, or neither. So if you can't do either, are you fucked in life? Absolutely not. This is where climaxing comes in, or the female orgasm. Now, is female ejaculation considered the same thing as an orgasm? Yes and no. And once again, every study is different. There are studies that say it is an all umbrella of what the female body is capable of as orgasm. So ejaculation is considered an orgasm. Squirting is considered an orgasm. But when we actually stop to think about it, squirting can happen before an orgasm. So how is it part of an orgasm, right? So I like to loop them in as 3 separate things that the female body can do. This is how I compartmentalize it and makes me feel the best and the most safe and the most pleasure filled. You are able to take this and do whatever you want with it, right? So if you want to umbrella it under one big thing, go ahead, do what feels right to you. There are no right or wrong. So when it comes to climaxing, there are 12 different types of orgasms that the female body is capable of. And I say 12 now, but when I first started coaching on sexual empowerment, about a year ago, it was only 7, they were saying. So this shows the amount of evolution that women's bodies and the science behind bodies, how it's evolving over time. What am I trying to say? Science is always going to be evolving with the female body. Because like I said, there's not a lot of research. So there will be a bunch of different science that will say different things, and will be conflicting information. And that's very frustrating as a woman. And I'm sure most of you feel the same way, but it's about kind of sometimes rolling with it and updating information from when you originally got it. So when I first started coaching, I would say to people, it's 7 orgasms. Now it's up to 12. So there are 12 different orgasms that a female body can have. So let's discuss them, because some of them are a little different than things that you've heard. When I started researching this, I was like, wait, what? There are 12? No way. excuse me, what are even these positions and or these spots? So let's go over the 12 different types of orgasms. And I'm not going to dive super deep into it because I do have a training within my Audacious as Fuck membership that goes over all 12 and how to access them and what to do in order to experience them. But there are 12 different ones. So there's the clitoral orgasm. Everyone knows this one. So the clitoral orgasm happens obviously from stimulating the clit. You can stimulate the clit, like clit stimulation, there we go, is anything that provides friction to the clit. So it can be your hands, it can be a toy, it can be you rubbing a certain way in your jeans, it can be dry humping, it can be you humping a fucking chair, it can be whatever it is. Anything that provides friction to the clit is clit stimulation. And clitoral orgasms come from the clit being stimulated. There is even studies out there suggesting that women actually don't have vaginal orgasms, which I don't agree with because I am someone who can have a vaginal orgasm. But a lot of people will say that vaginal orgasms are actually from the clit being stimulated by the partner's by the partner's pelvis or the partner's pubic area, right? And it's actually a clitoral orgasm. I don't think that's necessarily true, but some fun facts for you. So the clitoral orgasm, almost every single woman can have an orgasm via the clit. It has 10,000 nerve endings compared to a penis head, which has only 4,000. So it is literally made for pleasure. And your clit is not just the spot that the quote unquote button that people refer to that you see in your vulva. It actually runs down the sides of your vulva. It almost looks like a wishbone. And so your clit is quite large, and the clit is, I'm giving you a little education here. The clit is made of the same thing that the same materials, right, as a penis does. So the clit does engorge and get hard when it is fully aroused. And it takes anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes for a clit to be fully aroused. So some fun information for you there. So a clitoral orgasm is any type of clit stimulation that causes you to have an orgasm. The second one is a vaginal / G-spot orgasm. So this is your typical penetration orgasm. The third one is a blended orgasm. A blended orgasm is any type of orgasm combination. So it can be clit stimulation and G-spot. It can be nipple and anal. It's any combination that causes you to have a blended orgasm. On top of that, there's multiple orgasms. Multiple orgasms are different from blended. Blended is stimulating 2 to 3 areas on the body and creating a big orgasm that contains all of them. Multiple orgasms is having one sequential one after another, right? So you can have an orgasm and then come down a little and then have another orgasm. That's a multi-orgasm, not a blended. Anal orgasm obviously can come from any stimulation to the anus. This isn't just penetration to the anus. The anus itself is a tissue and a muscle that has a lot of nerve endings on it. So this could be from playing with it during oral, right? It's rubbing the outside of it, can cause an orgasm rather than penetration. A sleep orgasm, people call this a sleepgasm or a snoregasm. This is typically happens when women are asleep and you are fantasizing about something sexually. Your mind can create an orgasm with your body. It's pretty fucking cool. I've had some of them before. Typically women will wake up either in the middle of it or towards the end of it. But your whole body reacts just like an orgasm, but it happens in your sleep. Not commonly, but I noticed when I did a reel on sleep orgasms, a lot of women commented that they got them when they were pregnant, which I thought was really interesting. I typically have them, and this isn't always the case all the time. I typically have them if it's been a long time since I've either had sex or masturbated, and my body is telling me it needs that release. But everybody is different. So apparently pregnancy is one that it comes up in a lot. A cervical orgasm. This is what they're considering like the most intense orgasm. This is considered like the full body orgasm. This is when you feel that it's like deep penetrative orgasm. The eighth one is the U-spot orgasm. This is a urethra, right? It is not about penetration of the urethra. We don't want to penetrate it, but you can stimulate the outsides of it with your finger and or tongue, and it has a bunch of nerve endings. And this can help also with like squirting, right? This is where squirting liquid comes out of. So if you've never squirted before, maybe having your partner try playing around the area of your urethra or doing it with a vibrator, but remember, don't penetrate it. A-spot orgasm is the anterior fornix erogenous zone. Say that 10 times fast. So this is considered the second G-spot, and it's located above the cervix in the region of the belly button. So people say that the best way to get in the A-spot is to use the pad of the finger or a toy and then pull across the front wall of your vagina. So it's like, they say it's like about 4 to 6 inches back. And you want to like, how do I want to say this? You almost want to touch the wall with like a come hither motion, or take it and kind of slide it against the wall, your toy and or your finger. There we go. A nipple orgasm. We all know what a nipple orgasm is. A coregasm is, some women can experience orgasms when working out. This is around the abdominal muscles. Like this is an abdominal kind of orgasm after you work out. And then this last one, there's a few of them. So the 12th one always changes. So there's expanded sexual response, which women who experience, they call it ESR, are able to have multiple prolonged, intense orgasms. The 12th one on other websites I've read are oral orgasm, which is having an orgasm through your mouth, not oral sex, but someone stimulating your mouth enough for you to orgasm through your mouth. Another one I read considered squirting the 12th one. So depending on which article you read and which study, they're all fucking a little different, but the 11 of them are basically the same. The 12th one typically changes, but the female body, moral of the story, is capable of so many fucking things, right? So if you can't ejaculate and you can't squirt, you can still climax. Every woman has the ability to climax, right? If you are struggling with climaxing, it could be that you are trying to focus just on penetration, which only about 18.4% of women, once again, studies say, can have penetrative orgasms without clit stimulation. If you add clit stimulation, it increases the chance of orgasm by like 50 or 60%. So if you cannot have an orgasm via penetration, i.e. sex, right? Start experimenting with some of these other areas: anal orgasms, nipple orgasms, clitoral orgasms. Almost, I believe I don't have the exact statistics on this because I have Googled them to try to figure out how many women can have clitoral orgasms. I'm pretty sure it's got to be close to like 99.9% of women can, because it's literally the one part of your anatomy that was built for pleasure. So if you've never experienced an orgasm, I always highly suggest starting with clitoral ones. They are intense in the most beautiful way. And if you are looking for ways to do that, obviously any type of friction will cause that. You can use your fingers, but I actually did an article as well in Smex Ed magazine in March's issue that is called Clitoral Stimulators, the Best Beginners Vibrators. And I actually listed 3 beginners vibrators, anywhere priced from 40 was the cheapest to 150 was the most expensive, that are for people who are just starting to add clit stimulation to their repertoire. And all of the toys that are mentioned on there can be used during sex as well. But yeah, guys, the female body is capable of so many fucking things. There are women who can squirt multiple times during a session. There are women who can only squirt once. There are women who can cream all of the time. They can cream before orgasms, during orgasms. They're creaming everywhere. There are women who can't at all. There are women who are climaxing from all 12 zones and women who are only climaxing from 3. Everything is fucking normal. Your body is normal. What is going on when you are feeling pleasure is normal. Unless something else happens, if you're feeling soreness, if you're feeling anything, pain, go consult your doctor immediately. That is not normal. But squirting is normal. Ejaculation is normal. Climaxing is normal. It's all fucking normal. So don't feel like you have to shy away from this aspect of yourself. And I use this example all the time. You never see men being ashamed of ejaculating. If men had the ability to have multiple orgasms, if men had the ability to come more than once during a session, if men had the ability to squirt, they would be running around doing it on everyone. They don't give a fuck. And I understand that that's because society has allowed them to do that, right? So it's not our fault that we feel any shame or guilt or scaredness, I guess, or fear. There we go, scaredness, fear around this idea of female pleasure. And the lack of education on it is stifling. It's fucking terrible. And so you have a lot of really uneducated people walking around there, and I get them every single fucking time I talk about female squirting specifically on reels. Is it contains pee, enough said. Even though I will show up on these reels with statistics and studies and I will cite them, there will still be some ignorant fuck out there who will say it contains pee. I have to block 3 of them a day, no joke. It does not. And if your partner is saying that, they are very uneducated and they need to educate themselves and basically shut the fuck up, because it is not something that you should ever be ashamed of. And if you've had past partners who have made you feel ashamed of that, that is them, not you. Do not allow their ignorance to stop you from living your best life and being able to squirt or come or climax, right? Do what feels best for you. You wouldn't have the ability to do this if you weren't meant to do this. Don't allow other people's shit and ignorance to stop you from experiencing the most pleasure possible. And of course, if you guys have any more questions, check out the Women Come To article. It's huge. It goes through all of this and more and talks about my personal experiences with experimenting with my body. If you want a more in-depth training on the 12 different types of orgasm, go to my Audacious as Fuck monthly membership. It's linked in the show notes as well. Sign up for the membership. The training is in there, as well as trainings on the pussy, trainings on anal sex, trainings on all things are in there. And then if you have any questions, shoot me a message on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat, and I will try to help you out in the best way possible. If you know someone who needs to hear this, as usual, please share this with your people. Love you, and I'll see you the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Fierce as Fuck podcast. And some parting words for you today. Remember this: no matter how hard society pushes you down, no matter how many times you fall, as long as you get the fuck back up, they can never stop you. You are unfuckable with. You will win. Don't allow this world to dictate how you show up in it. Don't allow society to make you bend the knee. Instead, make them bend theirs. And don't forget, if you like what you heard, go on to iTunes and Spotify and leave your girl a review. Until next time, my